The UDRcast is not affiliated and does not represent any 12-step fellowship. I, Bill Ward, the host of the UDRcast, will be sharing my experience and my journey of recovery. That does include, but is not limited to, the literature contained in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. Our guests will be sharing their own path to recovery and what has worked for them. The UDRcast encourages and supports all paths to recovery. Welcome everybody to the UDRcast. UDR stands for Uncover, Discover, and Recover. My name is Bill Ward, and I'm coming to you from the recovery capital of Canada, Calgary, Alberta. Here we are going to discuss everything recovery, different perspectives, different experiences, both with the people I know and with others from around the world. If you resonate with anything you've heard on this episode today, we ask that you share it with anyone who you think may benefit from it. If you have any questions or comments, please find us at BILLWARDLIFE and send us a message in the info section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you are interested in more recovery content, you can find the buttons for the YouTube channel and other social media outlets on the homepage, and you will be redirected to those platforms. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time. Okay, so second paragraph, page 63. So of course the often disputed question of whether God can and will under certain conditions remove defects of character will be answered with a prompt affirmative by almost any AA member. To him this proposition will be no theory at all. It will be about the largest fact of his life. So just a disclaimer in there. Because most AA members aren't really willing to remove their defects of character. They're still fucking around, like most of them, I'll just be honest, right? Whether God can and will under certain conditions remove defects of character will be answered with a prompt affirmative by almost any AA member. That's not almost any AA member. It's just the members that are really fucking willing to do this. So it's not all members that are doing this shit. It's only some people. Like, I'm going to say it's much less than half, right? So just so you guys know, like, I don't want to blow smoke up your ass. And, you know, there's a lot of people not fucking digging into the solution in the big book or want to really grow or change. But there is a lot that are. So to him, this proposition will be no theory at all. It will be about the largest fact of his life. And for me, that is the truth. That the step 6 willingness and step 6 basically did change my life. It is actually what catapulted me to want to remove these defects of character. The pain involved in it was really severe, but I fucking persevered and I started really leaning on God. And like in those moments where I was acting in defects or I was going to, the thing about it was I missed it most of the time. The defect would always come out and I would act in it. And then eventually I could catch it before I acted in it, right? The thing about working step 6 is it's frustrating because the defects are so powerful, you're not going to catch it all the time. You're going to fall into judgment, self-pity, anger. You're going to act out in anger and go, fuck, I'm not supposed to be angry anymore, but you're willing, right? And then eventually, like maybe you miss it 100 times in a row and then you catch it finally. And then you're like, fuck, this is where I usually fuck up and I caught it. And you're just like, fuck, this is awesome. And then maybe you miss it again. But the thing is, you're not trying to be perfect. Like, you're not trying to be a perfect human being. You're trying to do this the best that you can without bullshitting yourself, right? So that, I guess, is where some of that self-love comes in, or self-talk. If you're really willing to do this, it doesn't matter if you fuck up. That's why it's really important to not worry about what everyone else is thinking or saying about you. You have your pillars. And you fucking know what you're doing, you and your pillars fucking stay tight and don't worry about what other people are saying. Because everyone's going to have an opinion on what other people are doing. And in our program, think about it like this. You get the sickest people in society, right? And you jam them into a fucking CO2 cartridge that we call the program. Because we're spiritual, we think everyone's well and doing fucking great things. That's not the truth, right? There's a lot of sick people still doing a lot of fucking sick shit. They're just not drinking in the meetings, right? So just worry about you and your pillars. Don't worry about what everyone else is thinking or saying, and fucking, that's all that matters. And I learned that lesson through utter fucking pain. But I you know, a lot of people talk shit about me today, and I don't really give a shit because I'm there. Like, I don't care. I know I'm a fucking good human. I know that I try my best to be a good human being every day. Do I fuck up sometimes? Yeah, but am I going to not look at that? No, I'm always going to look at it. I'm always going to try to grow from whatever I fuck up in. And to me, when you're really working step 6 seriously, you're never fucking up. So don't let people say you're fucking up, because when you're really working this program seriously, you're never fucking up. Because you're always looking at what it was that might have caused you some hurt or pain or somebody else, and you're willing to try to do something better. That's what really matters. When we talk about the line and how it works called "we claim spiritual progress, not perfection," the fucking weasel clause is just saying it's progress, not perfection. A lot of guys who aren't working this, you'll hear them in the meeting say, oh, it's just progress, not perfection. I don't need to worry about it. But they're not really trying to change or grow. They're just using that line as a fucking scapegoat to keep doing their shit, not really grow. When you look at the lines in the big book, and that says we claim spiritual progress, not perfection. It's about looking at your shit spiritually and trying to grow in a spiritual way. So don't beat yourself up if you're fucking up, because you're not fucking up, right? And I think that's, a lot of my sponsees and the people I work with, I really tell them that. Like, you're trying hard, you're doing a lot of good things, and there becomes a balance of, being hard on them at the right time with the right fucking words. And like, maybe the same situation arises and I'm not hard on them. And I got to give them a pat on the back, and I got to fucking tell them they're doing good, right? So there becomes a balance. As a sponsor, you learn how to balance this shit. And it's not me, it's my relationship with God that allows the balance. Okay. He will usually offer his proof in a statement like this. Sure, I was beaten, absolutely licked. My own willpower just wouldn't work on alcohol. Change of scenery, the best efforts of my family, friends, and doctors, clergymen got me nowhere with my alcoholism. I simply couldn't stop drinking, and no human being could seem to do the job for me. But when I became willing to clean house, that's first, right? And then asked a higher power, God as I understood him, to give me release, the obsession to drink vanished. It was lifted right out of me. In AA meetings all over the world, statements just like this are heard daily. It is plain for everybody to see that each sober AA member has been granted a release from this very obstinate and potentially fatal obsession. So in a very complete and literal way, all AAs have become entirely ready to have God remove the mania for alcohol from their lives. And God has proceeded to do exactly that. And that's the beginning. Removing of the substance is the beginning. And we drink and use drugs for reasons. And the reasons lie within these defects of character that we're actually trying to relinquish. So I'll quote a line out of the step 4 in this book, and I'll just break it down quick. Character defects, which is what we're talking about tonight, representing the instincts gone astray. The instincts are my desire way down inside for sex relation, emotional, material security, and companionship. That's where all the problems actually start from. The problems we think arise out of ourselves, that's where they are. They're deep down, and it comes through your trauma, through your life's experiences, through societal belief systems. All these things way down inside actually are why we act out in these things. So character defects representing the instincts gone astray has been the primary cause of our destructive drinking and failure at life. The thing about the defects is they actually cause our failure at life, and we need to drink because of that. Okay? Unless he is now willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, both sobriety and peace of mind will still elude him. The people that don't work on the removal of defects of character, they fucking drink again, so sobriety eludes them. And if they're able to put the substance down, me and Sean were just talking about this outside. If you're able to put the substance down, but you don't work on the defects of character, the peace of mind eludes you, okay? And most of us won't even be able to stay sober on it, but there is the odd person who does, okay? That all the faulty foundation of his life will have to be torn out and built upon a new bedrock. So what is our faulty foundation of life built on? Anyone? Self. Our faulty foundation of life is based in self. And when you look at society and what is our foundation of like our society, it's like everyone for themselves. Individualization. Okay, it's the foundation of selfish and self-centeredness. And we have to rip that out as alcoholic and addicts. We have to build it on a new bedrock. The bedrock is God. And when you tie the literature together, it's the cornerstone that they talk about in step 2. Cornerstone is God. Upon the cornerstone, we can build this wonderfully effective spiritual structure. The best version of ourselves, we can build that with God. But we can't just do it with the idea of God. We have to learn how to turn it over, which is that step 3. And the step 6 is actually teaching us how to turn it over, at least giving you the theory of the willingness and what it takes to do that. Okay? And the benefits of that will be shown in the next session in step 7. So this is about the pain and humiliation. Step 7 will be kind of coming over that hump and working with genuine humility. Having been granted a perfect release from alcoholism, why then shouldn't we be able to achieve by the same means a perfect release from every other difficulty or defect? Question mark. This is the riddle of our existence, the full answer to which may be only in the mind of God. Nevertheless, at least part of the answer is apparent to us. So in the meetings, you hear a lot of, especially old-timers, but not just old-timers, people will say when they read it on step 6, well, God removes these things. I don't do anything. No, you have to do a lot, okay? You got to be willing and you got to expose them and you got to bring them to the surface and you got to be fucking the one that takes the action in it with God's help. It's like a relationship, right? That's the relationship with God. God doesn't do everything and you don't do everything. You work together with God and build a real relationship with him. And if God can remove the mania from alcohol from me, why can't he do the same with every other difficulty or defect? Well, he can, if we let him. The full answer of which is only mind of God. God knows, because God knows everything. But nevertheless, at least part of the answer is apparent to us. It's telling me I got to do my part. When men and women pour so much alcohol into themselves, they destroy their lives. They commit the most unnatural act. Defying their instinctive desire for self-preservation, they seem bent upon self-destruction. They work against their own deepest instinct. As they are humbled by the terrific beating administered by alcohol, the grace of God can enter and expel their obsession. Here, their powerful instinct to live can cooperate fully with their Creator's desire to give them new life. For nature and God alike abhor suicide. But most of our other difficulties don't fall under such a category at all. Every normal person, for example, wants to eat, reproduce, to be somebody in society. So right there, it's talking about the instincts. Okay, it's talking about the instincts, which you will find on the first page of step 4 in this 12 and 12. First page and a half of the step 4 in this 12 and 12 will describe the instincts for you. Normally, I would read all of step 4 when I do a step 6, but we're not going to. But I might pull little pieces apart later. So he's talking about the instincts. And he wishes to be reasonably safe and secure as he tries to attain these things indeed. God made him that way. So God made us with the instincts, right? But us alcoholics, we go far beyond using these instincts for what they were intended for. He did not design man to destroy himself by alcohol, but he did give man instincts to help him stay alive. Self-preservation, these things help us live. The desire for procreation and sex relation is procreation. Emotional security, every human being needs connection. companionship, we want partners, we want fellow people in our lives, and material security. We want roofs on our head, we want to be able to drive, we want, to be secure in our lives, right? So it is nowhere evident, at least in this life, that our Creator expects us to fully eliminate our instinctual drives. So as far as we know, it is nowhere on the record that God has completely removed from any human being all his natural drives. Since most of us are born with an abundance of natural desires, isn't it strange that we often let these things far exceed their intended purpose? When they drive us blindly, or we willfully demand that they supply us with more satisfactions or pleasures than are possible or due to us. That is the point which we depart from the degree of perfection which God wishes for us here on earth. That is the measure of our character defects, or if you wish, our sins. So again, it's talking about the instincts, and it says when they drive us blindly, or we willfully demand that they supply us more satisfactions or pleasures than are due to us. And these instincts, and I'll quickly read on the page, on step 4, first page, it talks about the instincts, okay? Powerfully, blindly, many times subtly, these instincts drive us, dominate us, and they insist upon ruling our lives. So our desires for sex, material, and emotional security, and for an important place in society, often tyrannize us. When thus out of joint, which is they're out of joint for us, man's natural desires cause him great trouble, practically all the trouble that there is. No human being, however good, including non-alcoholics, is exempt from these troubles. Nearly every serious emotional problem can be seen as a case of misdirected instinct. When that happens, our great natural assets, the instincts, have turned into physical and mental liabilities. So the instincts are the deep down shit. And they drive us powerfully, blindly, subtly. They will dominate us. They will insist upon ruling our lives. And at some point down the road, they'll tyrannize us. And when you think about that, there's a lot of, people are driven by sex in our society. And people will go from relationship to relationship to relationship and enjoy sex and enjoy the companionship, but they can never be secure in one relationship. And then they get older and they're just like, fuck, they just give up on relationships. But that desire keeps them jumping around, right? The desire for sex when it takes you to porn. And that will drive a person powerfully, blindly, and subtly. It will tyrannize him and fucking destroy and make him impotent, for fuck's sakes. Then if he ever gets a girlfriend, he can't even fuck her because he can't get hard. Or not just that, they don't have the ability to fucking interact as a human needs to interact because their whole psyche's been changed by porn, right? And there's all these things, a lot of guys will just, all that they do is make money, make money, make money. And that is your desire for emotional security within your peers because our society says men should have money. They just drive nice cars, have fancy watches, and try to have hot chicks, but really they're fucking miserable. These things drive us, pretty fucking powerfully, right? And you got to find out what yours are. It starts at the defects, and you follow it back. And the defects get more subtle as you stay sober longer. And the instincts will reveal themselves more, but the thing is you have to stay sober for all this to kind of work together, okay? But in the program, mostly you hear people talk about the fourth column, what the defects are. After you're sober a while, the third column is the most important column because it's where it's coming from. And if you want to heal, you want to learn what serenity is and contentment and be comfortable in your own skin, eventually you got to go into that third column and go down inside yourself. But it takes time. And you can't just do inventory selfishly just because you want to feel better. Working all the components of the program will reveal the stuff at the right time and balanced in a balanced way. Because inventory can be really selfish. So many people in the program won't sponsor and they won't do certain things. All they want to do is do another set of steps, do another set of steps, do another set of steps. Why? Because they fucking want to feel better. It's not about you feeling better. It's about you fucking doing this work so you can serve other people. Through the service of others, you'll feel better. And then the stuff that comes up through time will always come up because I'm looking at you, listening to you, talking to you because you are me, and you struggle with the same 4 instincts that I do. Yours are just different. But the funny thing that God does in our lives is he places the people that have the same issues as you in your fucking path. And I'll use my buddy as an example. Jesse, he's a sex addict. His first 5 sponsees in his sponsoring career, 4 of them were sex addicts. He's worked with fucking so many sex addicts. He sponsored 300 guys, right? He's worked with so many sex addicts because that's what he is. I've worked with 2 because that's not what I am. But I get the guys with anger and different other things that I fucking need. And Creator does that. That's why whenever you're people that know me, I always tell them everyone's trying to figure shit out in their life. I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. Because we're trained to always figure shit out with our mind. That's what we're trained to do in our society. Coming here, you don't need to figure it out. God figures it out. But you got to be willing to ask God. And God will figure it out for you. So we have to fucking change that, right? And that's hard to do because we're always taught to try to figure it out. You don't need to figure it out. You need to pray and say, God, can you help me? Can you figure it out? Can you provide me the people in my path that are mirrors to me so that I can see what I need to change in me? And through the changing and the stuff that you see in others, you actually start building compassion for people because you see that they're actually being driven powerfully, blindly, and subtly by the same instincts that you are. And then you start building that true tolerance, right? Other people's shortcomings, viewpoints, and respect for their opinions. For me, because I've done so much of that, I'm able to really listen to people without judgment. And when you first start, you might have judgments when you're listening to people because they're going against some of the ideas that you fucking think are right. Well, you start learning through the processes of working with people that's just going to be the way it is. And you start building compassion. And once you build compassion for your fellow human being in deep ways, a lot of your fears in your life, they go away. And you start understanding what's important in life. Because we're driven by fear, but we're fucking designed with love. We're trained and indoctrinated with fear, but inherently we're wired for love. So the wiring for love is more prominent, but it takes the work to fucking bring that out. And then the fears that you struggled with of what's actually you thought was important, it's not as important as you thought it was. And when you start turning it over to God, all the things that you needed to go get and figure out, they're actually delivered to you. Right? So the money and the relationship that you always wanted, we all want the same things. We all want someone that loves us, to be loved, to blah, 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 blah. You do the work here, God gives you that when you're ready. And he doesn't give you it until you're ready, right? And whatever you resist will persist. The beatings continue till the lesson's learned. Right? And the lesson might look different, but if you ain't into learning it, it's coming fucking back and you ain't getting what it is that you fucking want. That's been my experience. And your mind can think that you've accepted something, but it's like conceding to your innermost self and actually letting it go. And you'll know when that happens, and it only happens through time, right? You'll be able to go, fuck, I thought I let that go. But then you're 4 years later, you go, fuck, now I let it go. That's why I got it. And you feel it inside, right? But the mind is always trying to fucking fuck you up. Okay. But if we ask God, he will certainly forgive our derelictions. But in no case does he render us white as snow and keep us that way without our cooperation. So God will forgive you. He is our father. We are his child. God fucking, our fathers forgive children. My daughter Lucy can do the most fucked up shit. And I love her no matter what. Right? She could even fucking murder someone and go to jail probably. Don't do that. But she could do that. And I'm going to love her anyway. Right? Because that's the kind of relationship that we need with God. God is love and God is forgiveness. That is it. I've worked with a lot of Christians in this program, man. and I've had to do a lot of work with Christians. And I've had to teach them God is love and forgiveness. That is it. Because the deep psychological patterns that Christianity has put in some of the people I've worked with, it actually, their ego attaches to these fucking things within their religion, and they get really fucked up. So if you can keep God simple, love, forgiveness, that's what God is, then you don't beat yourself up near as much. Okay? And maybe even if you pray, you don't even pray to fucking God. Don't even say God. Say love. Pray to love. It changes the wiring in your fucking subconscious, and it changes how you view God. Okay. That is something we're supposed to be willing to work towards ourselves. He only asks that we try the best we know how to make progress in the building of character. That is, we just try, right? We just keep growing. You don't make mistakes. You make decisions that you learn and you grow from. So step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, is AA's way of stating the best possible attitude that one can take in order to make a beginning of this lifetime job. It's your best foot forward in trying to build character and change. And what I love about the big book, and I think this is important for you guys, the word attitude, if you can take my version, the word attitude means God. So the best possible attitude one can take on in order to make a beginning of this lifetime job. If God is the attitude, that's the attitude. And when you look at the word attitude in the big book and in the 12 and 12, wherever it's placed, if you put God where it says attitude, you'll see what I mean. Okay? This does not mean that we expect all of our character defects to be lifted out of us as the drive to drink was. A few of them may be, but with most of us, we shall have to be content with patient improvement. Because it's fucking hard. You have to be content with 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. As you go down the road of 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, down the road, you can make like 10 millimeter jumps because the proof is behind you and you don't want to live there. So you start taking bigger jumps as you move along. And then eventually you just live that way, which is what step 7 is about. The key words entirely ready underline the fact that we want to aim at the very best we can know or learn. How many of us have this degree of readiness in absolute sense? Practically nobody has it. The best we can do with all the honesty that we can summon. It is to try to have it. Even the best of us will discover to our dismay that there is always a sticking point. A point at which we say, no, I can't give this up yet. And we shall often tread on even more dangerous ground when we cry, this I will never give up. Such is the power of our instincts, because they're so fucking powerful, to overreach themselves. No matter how far we have progressed, desires will always be found which oppose the grace of God. So I would recommend, as you go through your journey of recovery, you never say never and you never say for sure. You never make promises. You never draw hard and fast lines in your life again. Okay? Never say never about anything. And never say for sure to anything. So like when my kids are asking me blah, 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 and my daughter's like, do you promise? I'm like, fuck no. I don't promise anything anymore. I don't say I'm never going to do this. You know why? Because I've learned the fucking hard way. Creator puts me in a position where I can't fucking, I'm going to fail at it. I'll fail. Because he says, you know what? You're not the boss. I'll show you who's the boss. Here you go. So I'll give you an example. There was twice, I remember 2 things. One was with lust, one was with anger. I'll share both of these stories and then we'll shut her down. So I remember, this is about probably 3 or 4 years ago. Like I barely got angry anymore. And if you knew my past life, you knew that I was angry and violent as hell. And then I was doing really good and I didn't get angry anymore. And I used to be super lustful and I wasn't lustful anymore. And then with the anger, I was like telling somebody, it was at a meeting or something, and I'm like, God's restored me to sanity and anger. I don't even get angry anymore, and then blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like fucking saying all this dumb shit. And then the very next day, I think it was you, Lucy was being a fucking teenager. And she lipped me off. And I fucking lost my shit. And I pretty much grabbed her by the throat. And I was just like, fucking. And then I was in that moment where I was like, dude, this is old you. Right in like mid, up against the wall. And I'm like, fuck. And then I realized that it's old me. And that, like, I lost my shit, right?
He took me out of my house and he didn't look at me.
But I learned my lesson. Okay. And then another time I was like, God restored me to anger or restored me in my lust area. And I was like, yeah, I don't fucking go there anymore and blah, blah, blah. And then I remember I was helping somebody with something and it was just me and her. And I didn't know anything I didn't know what her motives were. I just thought she was just cool and she was just a friend and fucking next thing you know, she's like sitting on the other end of the couch and she says all this shit. And I'm just like, whoa. I'm like, I think you better go, right? But with me, I was like, fuck, she's super hot. And I had a reservation. So I was resisting and I was just like, no, you got to go. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go. And then, so then she's leaving and she's walking by me. And then she just jumps on me and starts like fucking jumping on me and taking off her clothes and shit. And then I went with it for a minute. And then I was like, no, fuck, you got to get out of here. But that was like the day before I said that thing about lust, right? So it's God that shows me who's fucking boss, man. And so don't say for sure and don't say never and just fucking walk like lightly with that stuff, okay? So that's it. Who wants to pray? One prayer.
Shama. Oh, no, there's somebody else. I'll pray.
Mike?
God, we just bow before you tonight, and we thank you for this time we've had together. And I just truly thank you for Bill and for his willingness to share the knowledge that he has gained out of this book, that it might work in our lives and make us, better to help the next suffering alcoholic, and just better to help anybody out there. I just truly thank you from the bottom of my heart for this group and for everybody that really wants to be more. Because, that's what it's all about. And it's just trying to be more and to serve you. And so I just truly thank you for Bill and for his life here. Thank you for your work in all our lives. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in to the UDRcast. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. The viewpoints and the opinions expressed today were solely of the individual sharing them. If you resonated with this episode, please follow us and share this link with anyone that may benefit from it. Please visit us at BILLWARDLIFE to see everything that we have going on. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time.